T Nagar, when you think about it, all that comes to mind is the traffic, the Deepavali shopping, the various shopping complexes, the arcades, the many buildings, traffic and pollution and several other things. What is forgotten is that this is probably the first planned locality of the city in the 20th century. Come, let us see the history of T Nagar. I have mentioned this before, but till the 1920s, there was nothing on the right side of Mount Road when you drove down from Gemini Circle. The city was entirely on the left. What there was on the right side was a vast water body of 77 acres, and that was known as the Long Tank of Mylapore. And surrounding it, there were paddy fields. Far in the distance was a village, the village of Mambalam. Nothing other than this. At that time, in the 1920s, a survey was conducted, and it was found that the population of the city was 6,30,000 people. Today, we are a city of more than 1 crore. Even then, it was felt that the city was getting very highly congested, and so the government decided that it needed to build a new colony, and they decided to drain the Long Tank of Mylapore. When this decision was taken, we had the British governor and his council, but we also had an elected government with limited responsibilities. There were 3 ministers who were Indians, and they belonged to what was known as the South Indian Liberation Front, also known as the Justice Party. That was because the party ran a newspaper which was called the Justice, and eventually that became the name of the party as well. The decision was therefore taken that a new housing colony would come up. The 77 acres came from the Long Tank of Mylapore that had been drained. In addition, land was acquired from the villages of Mambalam, Puliyur, which today, actually in today's parlance, it would include parts of KK Nagar, Ashok Nagar and all those areas, and Saidapet, the government farm. A total of 540 acres was acquired at the cost of 4.9 lakhs, and then planning began in 1924. Even though we were administered by the British, it was the French who had the best reputation for planning and laying out cities. And therefore, T Nagar was planned on the Beaux Art style of town planning. A park in the middle, roads radiating out in all directions from that particular park, and houses and other facilities built all around on either side of these roads. Even today, when you go to T Nagar, it still follows the same plan. And it was considered to be a self-sustaining, self-contained area. So, everything was planned there up front. Areas for schools, areas for places of worship, areas for shopping, areas for entertainment, for public recreation, everything was provided for. 490 acres was sold to the public, but for 10 years there was not much of demand between 1924 and 1934. In the 1930s, the suburban railway line came to be laid, and because of that, demand gradually began increasing, and by 1934, land was being taken up by the people. The entire area was named after leaders of the Justice Party. So, right in the middle, you have the Palagal Park, which was named after the Raja of Panagal, the second Prime Minister of Madras Presidency. In those days, what we recognize today as the Chief Minister was given the title of Prime Minister, and the Raja of Panagal was the second to hold that office. The correct pronunciation of that park is therefore Palagal Park, but over a period of time it became Palagal Park. If you go to that park even today, you will find a small but exquisite statue of the Raja standing in the middle, and next to it is a round structure, and you will wonder what that is. That was the radio house. In those days, the first radio broadcasting service in India came up in Madras city, and that was thanks to the Madras Presidency Radio Club in 1924. People didn't have radios to listen to, and so public broadcasts had to be arranged. Loudspeakers were set up at various locations like the beach and in parks, and in the evening someone would come and switch on this. people would stand around and listen to the program and then go back. That radio house fulfilled that role for that particular area. It is still standing. The roads all around Palagal Park were named after leaders of the Justice Party, as I said before. Why? T Nagar itself takes its name from Sir Pitti Tyagaraya Chetty. The T stands for Tyagaraya. Sir Pitti Tyagaraya Chetty was one of the founders of the Justice Party. He was also the first Indian to become the president of the Madras Corporation. The president is what we today would call the mayor. Two other founders of the party were Dr. C. Natesa Mudaliar and Dr. T. M. Nair. They are also commemorated in this area. Natesa Mudaliar with the park, Natesan Park, T. M. Nair with the road. In addition, you've got G. N. Chetty Road, Usman Road after Sir Muhammad Usman, Sivagyanam Road after T. N. Sivagyanam Pillai. Everybody who gave their names to that particular area were Justice Party eminences. In addition to that, a very unusual practice was to commemorate government servants. Today, you don't see that at all in Chennai, but at that point of time, G.T. Bog, Sir G.T. Bog, who was Chief Secretary, Government of Madras later, after him came Bog Road. And then we have Maloney Road, Madley Road, Coates Road, Hensman's Road. All these roads take their names after government officials. And then, slowly, you also find that there were very, very ordinary people who lent their names to T Nagar. You've got Nadamuni Street and Govindu Street, and you may wonder who these two people were. They were road diggers. They were laying the underground sewers in T Nagar when the road fell on them and they died under the debris, and they are commemorated in Nadamuni Street and Govindu Street. T Nagar slowly began to have schools, and some of the most famous educational institutions of Chennai happened to be there. You have the Ramakrishna Mission schools, you have Sharda Vidyalaya begun by Sister R. S. Subbalakshmi and later given to the Ramakrishna Mission. You have Holy Angels. Much later, you have got Padma Seshadri and several other schools. T Nagar was also known for film stars. You must remember that Kodambakam was pretty close by. Gemini Studios was even closer. And so you had people like Savitri, Bhanumati Ramakrishna, T.R. Rajakumari, Nagesh. Why? Even former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Dr. J. Jayalalitha, was a resident of T Nagar before she shifted to Poise Gardens. So it was known for its film crowd as well. It was no wonder that two film stars built theatres over there. Rajkumari Theatre built by T.R. Rajkumari and Nagesh Theatre built by Nagesh. Both these theatres do not exist any longer. If you wanted to listen to Carnatic music, you went to Vani Mahal, begun in 1945 by Chittur V. Nagayya, a very famous Telugu cinema actor, a statue of whom stands just outside Palagal Park. He, along with his friends, bought that land, which happened to be the deepest point of the entire long tank of Mylapore, which is why the area still floods whenever it rains. Not far away from here is Griffith Road, named after the great Carnatic musician Maharajapuram Santanam. He, in the 1950s, began Sri Krishna Gana Sabha, which still flourishes. Today, when you think of T Nagar, shopping is one of the first things that come to mind. Now, what were the early shopping areas? Nalli has been there almost from the 1940s, same building, same location, going strong. You have Naidu Hall, still going strong. And then for when people felt hungry, they'd go to Geeta Cafe or they'd go to Woodlands Tiffin Room. After that, several other facilities have come up in the same locality. In the midst of all this, you have Ranganathan Street. Who is that named after? For once, it's not a human being. It's after the deity in the Sri Rangam temple. He gives his name to that particular street, which was once a residential locality. Today, you can't even imagine that. It's full of shops and shopping crowds. In fact, that is the first thing that comes to mind today when we look at T Nagar. But when you cross these shopping areas and you look into some of the streets, you'll still find some of the old bungalows, and you'll be amazed at what was the space in which people lived. T Nagar was sold in plots of land that measured 1 acre, half an acre, quarter acre, 2.5 grounds, 1.5 grounds and 1 ground. So that was how T Nagar had originally been built. So the railway line came up on the western side of T Nagar. Mambalam therefore got divided. On the other side of Mambalam, That part which remained outside of T Nagar became West Mambalam, which is why today there is no East Mambalam. East Mambalam is actually T Nagar itself. So that becomes a very popular quiz question. Where is East Mambalam? East Mambalam is T Nagar. And the entire area was originally known as Mambalam New Town Planning Scheme Eastern Section, which eventually became Tyagaraya Nagar, T Nagar. Given the amount of shopping that goes on over there, you won't be wrong in assuming that the T stands for Trade Nagar. Let us see what happens to this locality in the years that come. More such interesting snippets on Chennai's history to follow. Thank you very much and see you soon.